Unlock the power of rebirth through your own words and actions. In this video, inspired by the teachings of Neville Goddard, we will take you on a revelatory journey through the mysteries of existence, exploring how I am the way to my rebirth can transform your life. You will learn to harness this powerful affirmation to shape your destiny and fulfill your deepest desires. This is your moment to unravel the secrets hidden within the sacred scriptures and take the reins of your personal transformation. Are you ready to forge your own path of rebirth? The message of the gospel, although it may appear at first glance to be a familiar narrative, conceals within its essence a profound mystery that is only unveiled to those who experience a personal revelation. Let us consider, for instance, what is recounted in John 16, the apparent complexity of Jesus' words, "I came from God and now I am returning to Him," reveals to us the pre-existence of Christ, His incarnation, His sacrifice, and His ascension. This narrative could be interpreted in the first person, as if it were our own experience. We have come from God. Indeed, in Ephesians, we are told, He chose us in Him before the creation of the world, reaffirming that we are all chosen. In this way, we come from God and to Him we shall return. But how is this possible? To illustrate this, let us consider a plant that sprouts new shoots. These shoots, when separated and replanted, begin their own cycle, similar to that of the mother plant. Thus, the divine design was to share His essence. Just as a father separates from his children so that they may grow, God separated us from Himself, although He never left us forsaken. In this way, we must manifest the characteristics of our divine origin. If the original plant had red flowers, the shoots will also have them. Although the shoot may appear to die when replanted, it teaches us the mystery of life through death, like a seed that dies in the earth only to be reborn. In this manner, by dying and being reborn, we carry everything that was in God the Father. Thus, we came out of God and were planted in this world, a world where death is a stage, but after it, we are reborn and grow in the essence of the parents. If before the separation we were one with God, it is imperative to return to Him, bearing all that He possesses. His divinity manifests in us, and everything that happened to Him happens to us, because we come from God and to Him we shall return. Allow me to share a revelatory experience that was entrusted to me. The person in question lived a supernatural encounter before a train emerging from darkness, symbolizing a journey towards light and knowledge. They were received by a divine presence who, with love, guided them to recognize their purpose and their connection with the divine, concluding with the powerful affirmation, "He is my rebirth." This experience not only reflects the presence of the divine within us from before our separation but also reminds us of the importance of recognizing and resurrecting that internal divinity, accepting our identity as part of God. Before our incarnation, we shared existence with the divine without individual distinction. We did not consciously choose this separation, but it was necessary for our spiritual evolution, with the hope of liberating us from mortality and attaining the glorious freedom of the children of God. Just as a sprout carries the essence of the mother plant, we carry the essence of the tree of life, although we only come to fully understand it after our experience in this world. At the end of our journey, we will awaken as God the Father, completing our cycle of death and rebirth. This narrative not only speaks of the divine pre-existence within us but also invites us to reflect on our own spirituality and destiny. We are called to be spiritual parents of our time, guided by a purpose beyond our conscious choice, playing a role that was predestined for us. Even in the face of disbelief and skepticism, we must remember that divine time differs from human time, and that the promise of return will be fulfilled at the perfect moment. The shared visions, filled with symbolism and profound messages, remind us that our spiritual journey is a voyage of return to the divine, marked by transformations and revelations. Thus, this spiritual journey takes us from God, through this world, and back to Him, transforming us along the way. It is a journey filled with mystery and wonder, in which each experience, each revelation, brings us closer to our true divine essence. Trust in your path, move forward with faith and love, for in the end, we will all awaken as God the Father. This marvelous and emotion-filled journey is distinguished by its uniqueness, where what at first glance might seem like darkness actually symbolizes the unfathomable divine silence, that infinite eternity. This leads me to think of the Song of Songs, in which the Beloved declares, "I am dark, but the translation of dark should be understood as the darkest among the dark. In the Hebrew language, the way to express the superlative or comparative degree of a word is through its repetition. For example, dark, dark for the comparative, and for the superlative, it is repeated 3 times, such as holy, 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 given the absence of a direct grammatical structure to express the holiest. Thus, when the beloved describes herself as dark, she is delving into the most absolute mystery, something that in the dream of the vision was not fully understood. And then, unexpectedly, someone emerges, who had been part of the Last Supper by invitation, to unravel this enigma. This invites us to reflect on how, at times, answers emerge from the most unsuspected places. This revelation was the denouement of a recent conversation. A lady, aware of having been touched by the Holy Spirit, questioned her friend about what she would do in the next 30 years, to which her friend wisely responded, "Why do you worry? Hasn't he told you that you are the blessed one? What are 30 years compared to the eternity you have waited to reach this moment? How can you harbor concerns knowing that in 30 years you will leave this world to enter a new era?" This conversation was the prelude to the vision she had but did not fully comprehend. And this often happens when we face the great mystery. We do not always completely understand what is happening around us, but this does not diminish its significance. Another lady shared with me a singular experience. In a dream, she was conversing with 2 people, one of whom asked her, "How much longer?" She replied, "Only 30 minutes, and immediately woke up. Now, she is expecting a child conceived by the Holy Spirit, but here the important thing is that she is not waiting for minutes, miles, or hours, but 30 years for the birth of that girl. However, as her friend rightly said, time is relative in this context, and what are years can feel like minutes, but in terms of a divine purpose, it is just an instant, extremely special and unique moments that go beyond our usual understanding. We all come from the Father, carrying within us the potential to be like Him. We traverse the centuries, each with our divine potential waiting to be activated. The one who is naturally a son of God, destined for that purpose, serves as a vehicle for others to also become sons of God by divine grace, and all of this occurs supernaturally, often beyond our comprehension. Some may remember the instant when that union took place, but for most, it is not a conscious experience at that level. In this spiritual journey, it is crucial to remember the fundamental divine law: an assumption becomes reality. This implies that our assumptions, our thoughts, and imaginations have the power to create our reality. Nothing is merely fiction, for everything we imagine can manifest. Sometimes we forget what we have imagined, but our creations will still germinate and bear fruit. It is an immense responsibility. A friend told me that at the age of 9, while using an Ouija board and asking, "Who am I?" the board spelled out Christ. He took this very seriously and believed he was the reincarnation of Jesus, but when he shared it with his minister, he was reprimanded for considering it a sin of arrogance. He prayed for the absolution of that supposed sin, and in a later vision, he contemplated an altar in a revelatory manner. This leads us to reflect on how our beliefs and assumptions shape our spiritual path, and we cannot forget that our thoughts and imaginations are constantly at work, shaping the events of the world. There are no coincidences. We reap what we sow. We are free to imagine anything, but we must be willing to take responsibility for the results of our imaginations. For example, if someone imagines and writes a story filled with hatred and violence, that energy can manifest in the real world. Our imaginative creations have a profound impact on our reality. To further exemplify this, let us consider the story of the Titanic in the book Futility. Written in 1898, it described a ship filled with wealthy and self-sufficient people that sank after colliding with an iceberg in the Atlantic. 14 years later, the White Star Line built a ship almost identical to the imaginary one and filled it with wealthy and self-sufficient passengers. And what happened? The ship sank after colliding with an iceberg in the Atlantic on its maiden voyage. This story reminds us that there is no fiction, only the manifestation of imagination in reality. Finally, it is essential that communication be clear and understandable. Paul, with his wisdom, preferred to speak 5 words that everyone could understand rather than 10,000 words in an unknown language. It is crucial to speak in a language that people comprehend so that messages can be shared and fully understood. let us continue exploring these profound revelations. It is fascinating to realize the crucial role that imagination plays in our spiritual understanding and in the manifestation of our life experiences. As you mentioned, the young man who was dissuaded from believing in his identity as Christ made a mistake, for as it is said, "In him we live, move, and have our being, and without him, nothing that has been made was made." So, who is he? The answer is deeply meaningful. He is our own wonderful human imagination. This understanding is powerful because through it, we realize that we are co-creators of our reality. Imagining a desired state and remaining faithful to it is the process that materializes that state in our world. It is our ability to imagine and believe that brings into existence what we desire. By understanding that God does all things, we understand that our imagination is divine and creative by nature. By illuminating this profound truth, man is all imagination, and God is man and exists in us, and we in him. You reveal the intimate connection between the divine and human imagination, an aspect often overlooked, but in reality, we are an extension of God, created in his image. The eternal body of man is the imagination, and this is the manifestation of Jesus, the divine body of which we are members. Upon reaching this understanding, we no longer see Christ as someone external to us, but as our own wonderful imagination. By experiencing the manifestation of our desires through imagination, we recognize that our imagination is Christ in action. Everything we do and create is an expression of that divine imaginative capacity. Unfortunately, we are often discouraged in our spiritual pursuits by those who consider themselves wise. Their answers are usually evasive and confusing, guarding secrets without a solid foundation. They may speak in complex languages, but when faced with profound questions, they frequently lack satisfactory answers. Your experience with these wise ones illustrates how direct experience and intuitive understanding often surpass theory and empty rhetoric. As you said, they speak from theory, while you speak from experience, and that experience is what truly matters when seeking spiritual truth. The message that our own human imagination is Jesus Christ is revolutionary and liberating. It reminds us that we need not look outside ourselves for answers or salvation. Everything necessary resides in our creative ability to imagine and believe. By understanding this, we do not need to conquer heaven. The kingdom is revealed within us, empowering us to face the world with confidence, regardless of our external position or status. Your instruction on the use of imagination is invaluable. We must imagine what we desire to be, remain faithful to that assumption, and observe how it becomes reality in our lives. It is a simple yet profound process. As we apply this principle, an internal work is also being done, preparing us for the moment when our imagination is fertilized and our desires fully manifest. Thank you for sharing these profound and inspiring reflections. Now, let us enter into silence and reflect upon all that we have learned.